The United States mail drain. Now, what in the world am I talking about? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests who are listening outside the door. This is a very critical, important subject, one that you haven't heard about in 20 years. When I was in school, in junior high school and in high school, we talked about the United States mail drain. What am I talking about? What mail drain? Are we talking about sending our boys over to Vietnam and dying? Are we talking about sending them over to Afghanistan and dying? Are we talking about all the males that are leaving to go to Europe or going to the Orient and marrying Oriental girls? Those are all mail drains. But I'm talking about a far more mundane subject. I'm talking about the United States Postal Service. You probably need to change the camera direction. Do you remember back when you were in school, they talked about how the United States Postal Service cost money every single year? It lost money year after year after year. And it was a lot of money in those days. I remember $50 million. And that was when the whole budget was less than $1 trillion. I don't even know what the mail drain is anymore. But they made all kinds of changes. Computerized, automatized. And then they made it a corporation, and they called it a private corporation. Except it's owned by the United States government, and the United States government gives them money when they lose money. So I don't know how you can call it a private corporation. It's a public corporation, which means it takes from the public, doesn't give anything to the public. Well, why, after 200 years of having the U.S. Postal Service, is it losing money? And the answer may not be so simple. But the answer is inherent in the problem. It's government. And even though they set it up as a separate corporation, it's still government. It's not a government by the people. I'm not even sure it's a government for the people. But I know one thing, it's sure a government of the people, because you've got a lot of people who work for the U.S. Postal Service, and they make a very good wage, and they support the rest of the economy and all of the rest of us that aren't working for a living. Now, the United States the UPS, started back in the 20s, and they went into competition with the United States Post Office. My God, how dare they do that? And UPS has made a profit for the last 75, 80 years. And they're doing the same thing the post office is doing. Now, why can a private corporation make a profit, but a public corporation doing the same thing can't make a profit? Well, I'm going to give you the answer. Number one, public corporations don't care if they make a profit. They're expected to lose money. And they're really good at their job if they only lose a little money. And it has been argued for years and years, but I don't hear the argument anymore, that we should let the U.S. Postal Service be run by private corporations that are really private, that are on the New York Stock Exchange, and where the stockholders get dividends. The danger is, my gosh, they're going to charge so much money for a letter, it's going to cost a fortune. It might cost as much as $1 a letter. How much does it cost for a first class letter now? 49 cents? Is that what it is? 49 cents? We're halfway there. And they're still not making a profit. They're still not even breaking even. Now, Federal Express came along, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago, and they went in competition with the United Post, UPS, and the U.S. Postal Service. And then I started to hear arguments that they shouldn't be allowed to be in existence because they were competing with the United States government. And because they were taking the cream of the crop of the business away from the Postal Service, that they were making the Postal Service lose more money. Isn't that a little strange? But this is what they argue. I'm going to give you a similar kind of relationship. Guy goes to a psychiatrist. This is true now. No fooling around here. People go to see psychiatrists because they're in real bad mental shape. And then they commit suicide. The psychiatrist says, the problem was they didn't come to me soon enough. And people don't realize the reason they committed suicide is the psychiatrist, from talking to them, drove them to the suicide. And they didn't commit suicide until they went to the psychiatrist. But the psychiatrist says, oh no, they came to us too late, rather than he's the cause. And that's what goes on with the Postal Service. It's the same idea. Competition breeds profit. And guess what else competition breeds? Lower prices. Look at your big box stores. You've got Costco competing with Walmart, competing with, I don't even know who the big, they're at each other's throats constantly, and the result is prices keep coming down because competition causes prices to go down. When you have a monopoly, like the U.S. telephone system, or Ma Bell, AT&T, used to have monopolies, their prices were pretty high. Now you got 1 million people in the business, prices keep coming down, the cable companies are competing. So why are we allowing the Postal Service to continue to take money out of our pockets? Money that we need to spend on fighting the enemy overseas. Money that we need to give to the poor and starving rich people that own the farms. Money that we should be giving to the homeless. Because they're only making $40,000 in their giveaways from the government, and they can't afford to live in $1 million mansion. I'm being funny, but none of this is funny. So I say we take the U.S. corporate Postal Service and we privatize it and sell it on the New York Stock Exchange. And I guarantee you that within 5 years, the stockholders are going to get dividends, rather than the public gets the shaft. Because that's what we always get. We get the shaft. Now, recent changes. The United Postal Service is now making Sunday deliveries with special mail. Did you notice that? Monday's a holiday. I got a delivery from the postal company on Sunday. There was a check for a lot of money, and I got it on Sunday. And I go, wow. Now they're trying to take business away from Federal Express and UPS. Well, that's all right. They can take business away, and now I bet you the Federal Express and UPS will now come up with a new system, but the price is going to keep coming down, but only if that competition continues. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know that everybody says, the heck with it, and they don't worry about it, and we're not enough money to worry about. Well, you don't even know how much money it is because nobody talks about it anymore. It's not an issue. They gave up arguing about it years ago. But we sure studied it when I was studying civics in high school. So we should scream, we're not going to take it anymore, and we want to privatize everything. And then after we privatize the post office, maybe we can privatize the military. And then we could sell our military services overseas and make a profit. So instead of sending our money overseas to fight wars, and then they come back and buy our country up, maybe the United States could be a profit-making organization. And then we'd be the richest country in the world. And we're not the richest country in the world because we keep giving our money away and everything else. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. Yes, another 2-3 minutes for questions.